How are you doing today, my lazies? Time for an interesting new segment that should have been addressed a while ago. I love the DC Universe, so to see the live action movies flop while the live action and animated shows prevailed was heartbreaking. I'll lay out how the Snyderverse could have been saved and the creativity with the formula for it. So let's dive in. Now, the main issue with Aquaman isn't that he's a lame fish talker in this series. They found a way to make him badass like the Injustice games and Justice League animated show, but his personality and look, while badass, fits Lobo significantly more. It's like the actors studied the wrong character to try to make this character more badass, and while it does work, the typecasting would fit significantly better as Lobo. He doesn't even look like he fits Aquaman, even with the skin. I'm sure that casual watchers weren't bothered by it, but every time I watch his movies, I can only picture Lobo trolling Aquaman. The Justice League cartoon literally has a badass version of Aquaman that they could have taken inspiration from to make an interesting and non-corny Aquaman that works both on surface and in the sea. But they went for sex appeal to compete with Marvel instead, which I think was a horrible decision considering the only saving grace for Aquaman is the CGI. The story was barely done right and the casting wasn't done well, even though it kinda worked if you're a casual viewer. Superman was cast perfectly and had no real conflicts, for me at least. Mega fans didn't like the aggressive, more emo Clark, but it felt more humanizing, and I see the direction they were going with this character. Trying to change him from aggressive to more chipper would have been a great way to showcase character development, but comics fans wanted it the other way around, even though the darker Superman worked just fine and pulled in more casual fans that didn't even like Superman to begin with, because he's essentially a boring square. The edge really fits him more as a kid when he's first realizing he's an alien versus a grown man that already has his life in order. The lack of the Clark personality was a bit of an issue for me since he's supposed to be dorky like Peter Parker Spider-Man. But again, I see how the transition was going to occur. I personally didn't have a problem with Ben Affleck as Batman, but his main issue came from being Bruce. He completely didn't understand the Bruce part, but that was literally only because of the script he was given. The more horror movie and hyper-aggressive Batman worked for the character and tone of the series. I could see what they were going for, but their need to compete with Marvel really ruined their master plan. Seeing how Batman had changed had so much potential, but the story being completely out of order and strange with his father still being alive and trying to connect that with the Man of Steel story really ruined his mythos and the story they were trying to build for him. The acting was great along with the intention, but the story was truly ruined. Now, Wonder Woman was cast perfectly, but the second movie just ruined all the best parts of the character and her story. Honestly, they should scrap everything in the second movie and just redo it all together. She was the perfect example of a strong yet feminine woman without being overly feminist. Then changed in a 180 and just became a tragic damsel with sexist views. Seeing her gradually learn how not to discriminate and appreciate men was shaping to be great development. The potential for her character was interesting, but whoever made the sequel clearly didn't understand the assignment. This was the only casting that was casted completely wrong for everything they were trying to go for. This actor fits Wally West so much better than Barry Allen. Even though his acting skills were actually the best, he just really didn't fit the role. Almost more than Jason Momoa as Aquaman, but at least he had the look, right? I'm surprised with how they connected with the CW and how they didn't take Grant Gustin at least as great inspiration for what Barry Allen is supposed to be. I don't even think he understood in the Solo movie how to fix that blatant flaw of his character role. They should have just cast him as Wally to fit the acting and then build a story around that, but I digress. Now, this character was completely misplaced. I know the Justice League is incorporating them more into their ranks and don't know whether they want him to be in the League or the Titans, but he should have been saved for the Titans initiative in order to build the world more, considering there was no world being built before the Justice League was introduced. I know there are versions of the League with Cyborg as a founder, but for the cinematic universe building, that was not the right move for the character, even though he was wonderfully casted. They didn't even tie him into the Titans, but at least they tied him into Darkseid, I guess. The guy playing him was acting more like the Riddler than Lex Luthor. His decision not to shave his head made no sense for the character they were portraying. They even tried to double back and say he was actually playing Lex's son, but even then, he still didn't play that part either. They were building a completely different universe from the main one or the Injustice one, and his character still didn't fit either. You could replace him with someone else and the effect would be the exact same. He did Lex and Alexander Jr. so much disservice, he should be the catalyst for Injustice. I know, bad faith humor. Won't do it again. Snyder tried to form an Injustice storyline, but with no build-up. Starting a major cinematic universe with an alternate storyline comic made no sense marketing-wise. They killed off the Robin Nightwing without any attachment to his character first, and the flashbacks of Batman being connected to the Injustice timeline could have been scrapped completely. WB was trying to rush Snyder to catch up to Marvel, not knowing that DC literally has better stories than Marvel to pull from that they could have built to surpass their competition completely in less time if they had worked on the right story and allowed the director to fully direct his vision. Even the Injustice storyline would have been better than what the studio pushed out. From what I could see, Snyder's vision was to create the Injustice verse, then ended off with a flashpoint to change it to the original verse we know and love. This could have streamlined a perfect multiverse saga that people could have been proud of. The Snyder Cut showed us that Snyder really did have a beautiful vision, and if you watch the full cuts of the other movies in the DCEU, like the infamous Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, you'll start to appreciate the full vision. The biggest problem I can truly see with the Snyderverse was the length of the movies. His vision was great, but having every movie 3 to 4 hours just to make a point shows that he wasn't confident in his own vision. He was adding so much detail to the point his movies were butchered from the cuts. I would blame the studio fully, but we still have to blame the excessive detail Snyder put into these movies. The DCEU could have been salvaged to create a better live-action movie series, as the CW Arrowverse shows that it's completely possible. I'll explain the ways it can be fixed in the next episode, so stay tuned. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget, till next time, stay lazy.